afternoon.
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I was gonna tell y'all that, Bailey Chivo and Humble Pie are secured. Oh, good. So, got that taken care of.
You got it?
Yeah, she talked to Taylor about how they're gonna set it up at Bailey.
Stephanie, you're gonna need tents. You're gonna need tents.
Taylor's on it already as to what we're gonna do and what we need. And it's not gonna be like sit down, so they'll be mostly minimal. Yeah.
Good morning, Wade.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
You're invited.
1 minute warning. Okay, thank you.
1 minute.
Roughly.
Here it goes.
Okie dokie.
Just so you know.
Out,
Thank
out
you.
on the floor. Except for the fact
All right, here we are.
it actually is taller.
Another
probably.
meeting. Just what we need.
Exactly. She just had a conference in Jekyll for ACCG.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call in the regular scheduled meeting, October 16th meeting of the Spalding County Water and Sewage Facilities Authority. We're going to have the invocation led by Mr. Cal Oxford, followed by the pledge led by Mr. Jim Skinner.
If y'all would join me in the invocation. Our Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for these citizens who voluntarily come to do the work of our constituency. We ask that you give us the wisdom to make all the decisions in the manner that most benefits our constituents. We also ask for your countenance and your blessings upon our fellow citizens who have been so devastated by the recent hurricanes. These things we ask in your name. Amen. Now join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is presentations. We have a presentation of the 2025 Community Development Block Grant recommendation with Alan Smith Consulting.
Hey,
I'm
good
assuming
morning.
you're Tyler.
Yes, that's me.
You
Yeah.
just introduced
Yeah,
yourself.
pleasure to re-meet you. Yeah, can you guys hear me? I know these mics are persnickety.
Yeah, you're.
Okay, great.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you for having us here. Appreciate your service. Appreciate the opportunity for Alan Smith to be able to come and speak to you about this topic. My name's Tyler Gregory. I'm with Alan Smith Consulting. This is Deborah Smith right here, CEO and founder of Alan Smith Consulting. One half, Patsy Allen also, who I'm sure you guys have all met and remember. We were asked in 2023 to begin to work with the county and the water authority to identify some target areas and come up with a project for you guys to be able to explore some options. In 2023, there were several different things that happened that slowed us down, and we had originally focused on Zone 1, which is Dundee Mills. And when we had to punt, we kind of wanted to back up. Joseph wanted to see if there were other areas that we could look at to give you guys some options to see if there was the ability to do projects in other places. So what Joseph did from there was have folks survey these different zones, these zones 1 through 3, and then got me that information. And from there, I did my best to distill that information down into some key points that you should be able to use to make a decision as far as what the path forward is for the project. So what I'm here today to present to you is that information and answer any questions that you have regarding this and try and help you as best we can determine what's the best project for the Water Authority at this time. So if at any point you have any questions, please let me know. What I'm going to do is just kind of hit the high points, and then we can get into talking about it. All right? Okay, so Zone 1, Dundee Mills, is the first option that we have here. There are 97 homes in that target area. 26 are vacant. Zone 1 is the second highest LMI concentration, and 55% of the homes have complaints about their septic system. 27 comments of the 41 comments about septic had to do with flooding in the backyard. The reason I hit these points so that you know is that oftentimes when we're looking at what's important in a project, it's how people are impacted. That's one of the main things that you're going to have to show. So if you can show that there is a health and hazard risk as well as impact on people's lives, then that's where you're going to get your highest scores. All right, and then your LMI also have to hit a certain threshold for that, which is 70%, for that project to qualify. And the greater the LMI population, then the better the opportunity for you to be able to serve that community. Oh, sorry. LMI is low to moderate income, excuse me. So, and that's determined by HUD. So HUD puts out limits each year for counties, and we go and look at those limits, and then the surveys that are sent out, you ask for people's income information. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. Depends on how people feel that day. And depending on where they fall for their household size and for their income for the year, that determines whether or not they are low to moderate income persons. There are 3 different areas. There's extremely low to moderate income, and then very low to moderate income. And so if you fall within those 3, then that is what qualifies you as a low to moderate income area. So when we say that the people in this area are low to moderate income is 93%, that means 93% of the people surveyed were in that range somewhere.
Question for you. Do
Yes.
you know how many of these homes are homeowner or rented?
I do not. And I could find out that information. That is something that we ask on the survey. As long as the people answered, I could tell you that. However, one of the nice things about this is that it does not have to be homeowner occupied. It can be rental. So I can get you the information as far as how many are homeowners if you would like, but I cannot get that today.
I'd like to know.
Okay.
I have an aversion to installing sewer for landlords.
I understand.
Without them paying, let me add that.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, well then, let me say another thing. So the sewer that you would install also would be, of course, your infrastructure. And then you will do a household connection, but you won't do any plumbing inside the house, just so that we're clear on what the operation would be, if that's helpful. Okay, so that was Zone 1. We considered Zone 1 to be the second most competitive project out of the 3. Zone 2, Pine Tree Hills. There are 74 homes in the target area, 11 of which are vacant. This zone is the lowest concentration of low to moderate income persons at 82%. 43% of the homes have complaints about the septic system. 18% dealt with backups in the home, which is lower. 13% of homes mentioned that they did not want to be put on sewer. Now, I brought this point up because in recent years, DCA has begun to ask for agreements from the homeowners or renters in the area that if the county or whoever the authority may be wants to put in a service, that the people agree and want the service and want to pay for that service. So we've had to go around and collect from them maybe just a one sentence, something that they sign that says, I agree and want sewer service. So it's important to consider in this, if a larger amount of people don't want it, that's a hurdle that we will have to deal with.
So say again, in Pine Tree Circle, 13 out of how many?
So 8 homes, or 13%
Oh,
of the total surveyed
Oh, okay,
population, yes.
do not want it.
That's correct, which is a larger number than any of the other areas. And that's why I brought that up, is it was an interesting, we don't always have people saying that they don't want a service. So it was interesting that more people in the area mentioned that they did not want the service.
Tyler, how many were in the Zone 1 that did not want the service, that were against the sewer? I don't recall seeing a number in there, it may have been, but.
I don't believe that there were any. If there were, there was 1 or less.
Okay.
So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that eight who said they did not want it, do you know whether they were renters or they were homeowners?
No, ma'am, I'm not sure. I can find that out.
Yes, that's important, because I think that's what you're gonna find, they're renters.
Well, and that may be the case. I do remember in particular that a lot of times when I would see that, one case in particular comes to mind, that someone had said, I recently have fixed my my septic system, and and so I don't want to pay for a service. Another one said that. Right, I would assume that was a homeowner, yeah. And then another said, I maintain my septic system and therefore I don't need help with it. So there were some folks in there, and those type of things are why I brought it up, is because it was interesting the level that people said. However, we can get you that information, and I will be able to.
Okay, one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
When they say they didn't need it, they say they did not necessarily need and want two different variables, are they not?
Oh, yes, ma'am, absolutely. They often said they did not want it. So, again, that's why I brought it up. We can look at the surveys. I've brought them with me, so we can look at them at some point if you'd like. Also, we have that information I could send, as long as we're okay with it, we could send that information.
Do you know how many septic tank failures there were in that zone?
Yes, so, well, at least, so these complaints themselves, so the 43% of occupied homes that have complaints about their septic systems, that was some version of a septic system failure. And then, that's why, again, the 18% of people that are talking about sewer flooding in the yard. So I would call that probably, I would say that the 18% that are complaining is probably a complete failure of the septic system, and I would say that the 43% who have complaints are experiencing some trouble with their septic system. Enough to mention more than just a smell, probably. So whenever we do this, so we worked with the authority to help educate on the kind of questions that we ask to determine what kind of issues are being had in the home. And those range from anything from a smell to actual backups in the home or in the yard. Okay, and so if you think about that, I guess on a DEFCON 1 to a DEFCON 5, DEFCON 5 being the lowest and DEFCON 1 being the highest. A DEFCON 1 would be where there's sewer in the home or in the yard. DEFCON 5 being it smells bad. Okay, so we still count that as a complaint, and there are probably issues coming. However, it's not as, we can't use it as much as evidence whenever we can get pictures or invoices or those type of things for other issues that might be happening in the home. So, and there was an invoice with Pine Tree Hills where someone had said, this is some of the work that I've had to have done. The other interesting thing about Pine Tree Hills is, well, I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into this. So, the actual lots in Pine Tree Hills, they are pretty large lots. A lot of people complain about their drain field. That was the issue. And so essentially when the septic systems were installed, it seems that they didn't install them to probably modern standards. I'm not saying that when they were installed they weren't to the standards of the time. However, currently we would have a larger drain field and we would have them further in the back of the lots. But the way that they're constructed essentially seems that that's where they're having a lot of the failures, is in between the septic tank and the drain field. So that's what most people complained about. It seems like more maintenance needs to be done. And given the distance that you have from the front of the lot to the back of the lot, you could install another septic tank. Some of these other areas, the other two areas don't have as large lots, so it's more difficult you could not install a septic tank that would meet modern standards and be acceptable on these properties, which is another factor that went into why we thought the other ones might be more competitive. Yes, sir?
Our definition of complaints is either renters or homeowners when you walk in and knock on the door and they say, I have complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if I understand this right, HUD doesn't really care whether it's a renter or a homeowner. They're looking for problems. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right?
Yes, sir. That's
That
correct.
impact somebody's life irrespective.
Yes, sir.
Let me make sure everybody's square with me at least. I'm also on the Board of Health, and we have the environmental person who looks at, for the county, septic tanks. If there's a real problem, I'm looking over at the general manager, he understands how that works, but she is the person who, for the county, is responsible. And so when I saw the data, I got a hold of Kelly and said to Public Health, hey, tell me about all these things. I'm not seeing these on the reports you give us on a monthly basis. She said there's two I think it was, that came up in the last 6 months from out there. On all the ones that have complaints. So the complaints, I want to make sure everybody understands, that's just people holding their own hand up and saying, I have a sewer, a septic pipe. That is not at our level, county level, to say, there's a problem here that we've brought somebody, public health, in to come in and look at and say we're gonna fix it. We have some of those, believe me, inside the county. We just wrote 39 citations on it, but these 3 places don't have those quantities. Just
Yes, no,
make-
absolutely. And so we do work with the
Public health.
yeah, with public health. We get a letter that explains. So once we identify the area, we identify the issues, we reach out to them and say, have you had any issues that are documented? So we get that documentation if at all possible. If there is no documentation, at the very least, we discuss what the issues are and then ask them if they could write a letter or be willing to give us a letter that explains this is how this might affect these people's health. Yes, ma'am.
That's one other thing. You mentioned there was some larger lots in the places for the
Septic
a
tanks.
drain field that could go,
Yes, ma'am.
let's say, someplace else.
Yes,
But most
ma'am.
of those drain fields are in the front of the houses. They're not in the back.
Wow. Yeah,
I
that's
want you
terrible.
to notice that. The most of the drain fields are in the front. They are not in the back.
Yeah, and I would imagine that if a second tank were to be installed, it would be in the back and it would be further away from the home.
But there are cases where that could not be because there are slopes in that area. There's slopes, and there is a, for lack of a better word, a little creek that runs between the lots. And so the sloping would not, it would not work because there are large slopes. I wonder if that was taken into account. But there are some other circumstances that happens out there, I think, perhaps that have not been taken into account.
That would, yeah. So, for instance, if that's the direction that you chose to go, then of course those would be factors that we would have to look at. The only information that we have is what we've been provided as far as surveys, and I know that there is a history of looking at Pine Tree Hills along with engineers. Since I'm new to the project, I'm using as much up-to-date information that I have. However, I do know that historically we have looked at both Dundee Mills and we've looked at Pine Tree Hills, and we've used the best information that we have from those previous experiences to inform our decision today as well. Now, I do not know about the slopes. I don't know if the answer to that question is yes, it's impossible to build behind that, or if we just have to dig deeper.
No,
So,
I know there's a possibility because I've investigated it.
Okay,
Somebody else has
okay.
too.
Well, then that's great to know.
I live there, so I know.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, then I understand. Okay. So then, yeah. I mean, that's good information to have. And if,
So I'm saying, what you're saying, I'm not disputing what you're saying, but
Sure.
I'm saying, and I don't want to sound callous, but some of the information is kind of superficial. This is what I know what you look at as a professional, but as a person who lives it,
sure.
there's a distinct difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And your felt experience is not something that I'm looking to discount, nor what's happening in your neighborhood. You obviously know those things better than I do, but the best I have right now, the best informed decision that I can give you right now is what I've placed in front
Right,
of
that's
you.
what I'm saying, what's on paper and then what's the actuality. And many times they're definitely two different
Yes,
animals.
ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are many projects that we have where that's absolutely the case. So thank you for letting us know.
Since we're
Appreciate it.
looking at CBDG, you may know the answer to this, Joseph. I believe if Pine Tree or any of these are hooked up to sewer, the septic tank has to be removed. Does the drain field have to be removed as well?
Not, but the septic tank has to be abandoned and
Filled in,
It has to
yes.
be built into the cost. Yeah, state law.
It has to be filled in and not removed.
You can do two different options. You can remove it, but
Still has to be filled in.
the least invasive method is just to punch holes in the bottom, fill it with rock, and basically cut off the pipe from connecting it to the house to the septic system, where it's a cheaper alternative. If you actually rip it out, now you have to get suitable backfill and all that stuff. So it's just an additional cost.
Yeah.
Okay, so area number 3.
Thank you. Okay, I was just thinking that. I was like, man, we've still got one more to go. Okay, and we can delve back into this after the fact. Okay. All right, Zone 3 was East Griffin, which is a larger area. One of the first things about it, I guess, that I will say is that if you choose this area, you will have more options in this area because it's so large. You will need to figure out what sections to work with in what order. Now, we can get into that in a second, but the stats are that there are 196 homes in the zone. There are 50 that are vacant. The LMI level is 94%. There 53% of occupied homes have complaints about their septic systems.
How
And
many?
53%.
53%.
78 homes of the 196.
Wow.
And then 54 of those 78 comments, or 69%, deal with backups in the home or yard. So almost 70% of the people in this area are experiencing backups in the home or yard, and over half are experiencing issues with their septic system. And so because of this and the location to sewer, as well as the ability of the treatment facility that this would flow to be able to treat it, this was the most competitive project in our eyes, because we know that you will need to work with the city to be able to deal with this. And we figured it would be easier to work with the city at a plant where they were not as close to capacity. So that was one of the factors that came in with this. And that was, Zone 3 was our suggestion for your CDBG
So,
project.
let me just make sure I understand simple terms.
Yes, sir.
The 3 projects.
Yes, sir.
If you took them before HUD,
Yes, sir.
the third one, East Griffin would score the highest,
That's what we believe.
and the other 2, both are scored well, but not near as high. It-
Yes,
so-
sir.
Interesting, okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you only had one of those and not the other two, when you're looking at the other 2 projects, they would probably score well, like you said. But if you've asked us to suggest which one is the most competitive that we think will score the highest, it would be the Zone 3,
So,
for sure.
so it's sort of a clear winner for the most desperate.
It
Needed.
is both the most desperate and the most easily addressable. So those are 2 things that go into it. So one part of the project is feasibility, right?
Well, I'm thinking of the 3 areas. The Dundee one, we've actually turned over that service area to the city, even though it's still county.
Yes, sir.
So we have the issue to discuss is we'd be paying money for sewer improvements to finish up in now the city's service district,
Right.
which becomes a question in itself.
Mhm.
And number 2, then, there's no, and I'm sympathetic to Mrs. Delaney, I've been involved in this for years, but there's no sewer connection close to that, it has to be run. East Griffin has sewer adjacent to it.
Yes, sir.
So it's easy connection.
That's
Kind of what
correct.
I'm hearing.
Absolutely. Yes, so in Ms. Delaney's case, then, the previous engineering for the project shows that the sewer would have to be run through a creek, which is expensive, because you have to take certain environmental precautions to make sure that everything works well there. What you're saying about East Griffin is correct, that it is near sewer and therefore easily connected, and flows to the proper waste treatment facility. Another issue with Pine Tree Hills is that it will flow to, one's Potato Creek and the other one is,
Cabin Creek.
I'm sorry?
Cabin Creek.
Cabin Creek, and I believe Cabin Creek has the capacity, more capacity.
Less capacity.
Less
Less
capacity,
capacity.
okay. So Potato Creek, forgive me. Potato Creek is what would be served, or is where East Griffin would flow to. And because that would be an easier sell, for lack of a better word, that's why we thought that would be a better project.
Well, I'm split, my heart's with Mrs. Delaney, I've
Yeah,
known this problem for
absolutely.
years, it tugs at me. My mathematical brain on the other side says East Griffin is a much simpler, larger impact
Yes, sir.
project.
Well, and so another reason that we suggested East Griffin is because of the large area and the fact that there are issues in so many places. You would contiguously be able to go through there. So we have called these areas zones. For most of these projects, we will have to break those zones into smaller areas called target areas. And that's where we will do each of the projects. So with your Zone 3, which is East Griffin, you would probably break it into 3 or more target areas to serve X amount of people and within the budget what you're trying to do. Because you're able to do that, you can plan for multiple years to say, okay, well, we're going to hit these areas like this, and it can be a nice systematic expansion of what you're trying to do, as well as having the ability to continually send that sewer to a ready treatment facility.
If I'm correct, there's a sewer outfall right adjacent to East Griffin, is that correct?
There's a couple of different connection points.
Yeah, I was gonna ask this too, but I thought East Griffin, part of East Griffin goes to Cabin Creek already, so I'm trying to figure out how you get to Potato Creek.
So you would just have to get under Cersei.
You wanna go to Potato?
Yeah.
Oh, well, this is
So you have a connection
this is a
here,
thorny
Here.
issue.
here, here. Ultimately, you could, this could outfall to a lift station, pump it, and then we could divert it to our plant later.
The emotional side of it is with her and how long she's fought. So,
20 years I'm aware of, I've been, all right.
So when Tyler says it's, how people are impacted, if you went to Pine Tree, we've got to know that the people want it overall. 13% is so high and unusual. When we go into target areas and we survey, most everybody wants improvements. So when we see that number, that's a red flag for us, right?
So that would jump out at HUD if they said 13% don't want it.
DCA, yes, it would definitely jump out. We say DCA, Department of Community
DCA,
Affairs.
yeah.
That's where HUD's money goes to in our
Right,
state.
yeah.
So when we see that, that's a red flag for us. But if the water authority went that direction, there would be more delving into that. Like, why do they not want that? Are they afraid of the bill? Do they just not want the mess in their yard? I mean, what reasons are behind those, you know, so if, you know, you try to dispel that, but, we don't know. We just know they said they did not want it. And so that's one thing that we have to look at in that area too. And then the cost to get it connected, I know that's what we also ran into in the past too, like how do you get the sewer out of there once you collect it? Where do you take it? How much does it cost to get it to that?
As I recall, in the 90s, that would require a force main.
You gotta go up over a hill to get to the city, as I remember right.
Did we look at that aspect at all in this, in what you did?
So, no, we only have the previous information that we've had. And what we did for this was just try and come at it with fresh eyes and see what the information was in all the areas. However, we expected all this information to come to play as you made your decision. Because a lot of that information is there. I believe the project has been engineered to some extent, and so there is information available to you about what it would take if you wanted to pursue that project.
What's the deadline for this one?
April 5th. Pretty soon.
April 5th of next year.
Not
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, yes, of next year. So,
Yeah, and y'all don't get April 5th in your head.
no,
Like,
no,
we need to know in the
What
next
date
30
do we need in
days.
our head?
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
We
So,
need to know in the next 30 days what time of year they're gonna select, because the engineers got to go in there and look at everything. If there's agreements with the
Preliminary
city
engineering
that have
report.
to be done, or
Yeah.
updated,
yes.
that has to come into play. So there's a lot of moving parts, whichever area you pick.
So in my mind, Dundee is now the city service area. I'm a little reluctant to I know it should be finished, but if we finish it, we have to turn it over to the city. And I almost feel that's really their responsibility if they're gonna finish, it's their district now. I'm kinda ruling out Dundee.
Right.
We have Ms. Delaney and this long-term issue. And the East Griffin one, but we have to do a partnership because that's in the water service district of the city, so we have a partnership with the county, partnership with the city.
Yes, sir.
We'd be the sewer providers, they'd be the water providers unless they turn the water back over to us, so there's some complications in a partnership to work out there too, so.
Yes. So,
None of
and that-
these are simple.
Yes, sir, that's correct. And so that's one of the factors that we took into consideration, and that's why I keep bringing up the availability of the sewer, is because of the treatment ability for the sewer, is because as we consider this, and you've heard the timetable that we have, we need to be able to move pretty quickly on this if we want to get it done. And so it's a lot easier to say, hey, you've got capacity here, and I also know that in dealing with Griffin, that they are interested in helping that area as well. So it seems like it might be a mutually beneficial situation, and they might be more willing to move that direction.
So I'm assuming that Pine Tree area, because you have to build, as I remember, a lift station, come over mountain and get it to Cabin Creek, on a per house basis, be a lot more expensive
Yes,
per
sir.
house than East Griffin, where you can just go down the street and dump it in the city sewer.
Yes, if you had to
You
build a
can
pump
get a lot
station, it would be-
more houses for less money, is that
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And they do look at cost per person.
cost per person is part of that?
Yes. So for instance, if you had to do any, you could serve a larger area if you had to. That's again another way that you can kind of tailor Zone 3 to make it fit what you need. If it's a more expensive project, you could find more people to serve, because there's such a large population out there to be able to help.
Joseph, do you still have to do with the DOT if you go under railroad track? Because there's a lot of railroad tracks to go under.
So you wouldn't be dealing with DOT, you would be dealing with the railroad company. That would be an expensive permit.
Guys, I mean, they don't want you going under there.
They frown upon it, and they make you, you pay a lot of money to go under their.
And you continually pay.
And they also don't respond quickly at all. You become on the railroad's timetable, which is very, very slow.
You almost gotta go through that whole rail yard. Not only just Searcy Avenue, but there's at least 4 tracks that I know of.
Yeah, so if East Griffin, if we don't pick a manhole that goes to Potato Creek, we are now getting into going to Cabin Creek. So obviously, every day that goes by if the city allows more development to tie into Cabin Creek, that capacity is getting eaten up. So it's just something to consider.
Or we can run it to our facility.
Well, we gotta make our mind here, so
Yes.
I'm very discouraged you didn't give us one that we had to do.
I know, I would have loved to have made that decision for you. Unfortunately, nobody appointed me, so
Okay.
I'm the whipping boy, right?
That's right.
There is a recommendation.
Another thing that we don't have information on is how much the water authority would put in for this project, right? We know the grant is $1 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but it doesn't go far in a sewer project. So, how much is the authority willing to put in, and y'all can't answer that. Do you know how much the engineer says it's all gonna cost?
Right.
So we don't have that information on any of these 3 zones, so, there's a factor there too.
That's what the CBD grant is, $1 million.
$1 million.
It's
Yes.
not very much for this project.
And it's required match of
47,500.
If we move forward, tell y'all to move forward, we make a decision, tell you to move forward, and then we decide, oh, we ain't got another $2 million to give for this, what happens?
We step back and reevaluate, like, can we reduce this target area, can we do something?
Well, $1 million,
We go to the next year.
Yeah, there's always next year.
$1 million wouldn't do the pump station, the line over the hill for Pine Tree.
Probably not.
That wouldn't even do the connection.
I don't think that would do the connection to Potato
Yeah.
Creek either.
DCA wants to see it in the lines and those household connections, that's when they want to see their money. But, they don't always necessarily see it in the lift station.
Okay, so
Is there a certain number or percentage of the homes that we would have to provide for initially? we obviously can't, I don't think we could do any of the whole subdivisions, to begin with. So do they have any kind of requirements on how much has to be affected with that grant money?
No, it would just be the 100% of the target area. So whatever area we select, then we would help.
So it could just be a portion of that then?
Yes, so, and that's, again, that's the point that I'm making, is that for zone 3 and multiple target areas here, or multiple zones that you have here, you will need to select areas that you will choose to fix. And so that's one way to reduce your project cost, is to say, okay, we're serving this amount of folks. Now, if you have a lift station and that sort of thing, I mean, it is what it is, a force main, a lift station, then you have to pay for those things. And if that's what it takes to initially do that project, then we just have to see how many people are you serving with that initial piece, and then what are your possibilities for expansion. So another thing in our application that we will mention is that because there are multiple phases, phase 1 will be this, and maybe it serves less people. However, we intend to do a phase 2, a phase 3, a phase 4, which will cost less on the front end but serve more people as we move forward. So again, another reason that our recommendation was what it was, is because let's assume that you had to have some version of a more expensive a pump station, a force main, something like that in your initial project. If you're able to reach more people as you go, and that initial cost is a gateway to serving more people, then you have a better chance of that being looked on as favorable. If you have to use that same expense, but you're more limited in how many people you can reach, then it's going to be a less viable option.
Okay, this is the old cost effectiveness.
Theoretically, if you, just as an example, if you chose zone 3 and we divided it up in 3 target areas, like Tyler said, that first one might cost more because you've got to get the infrastructure in place to move it from that target area to the treatment plant. And so your engineering report that the engineer does is going to cover that. We're going to cover that when we write about it. And then we're going to talk about the phases like he said. So today, or whenever you select whatever zone that you want to do, the next step is to get the engineering cost. We've got to see like how far we can go with this first target area. And that's going to depend on what the water authority can put into the project and what, how many people that we're trying to serve. So there's a delicate balance between those two things. So the first step after your decision is engineer report with cost estimates, so we know where we're going.
Well, Mr. Chairman, rather than beat this thing
I
anymore,
was fixing to thank them for their time.
we need, yes, but we need some process to make this decision and come back to this board. So you got any ideas?
Punt.
It's on new business, we can talk about it then.
Okay.
I think we've covered it enough.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you, Joseph, so much for everything. Charlie, thank you very much. Chris, I appreciate the help. Chris made these wonderful maps that we didn't even get to. They're in your packet. Look at them. We worked hard on them. He worked hard on them. They're great. Thank you again. Please let us know if you have any questions. Joseph has our contact information, and we are happy to help in any way that we can. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
I want to just say one more thing. I want to thank y'all, those of you who have been on this board for a long time. Tomorrow is a very important day for Allen Smith Consulting. We'll be 30 years old. And you guys have been a big part of that, Spalding County, Griffin, but the Water Authority. So thank y'all for being a part of our history. So I appreciate y'all very much, and whatever decision you make is the right one for you, and we will abide by that and go with it. So you've got 3 places to look at. Those people all need help. And so whatever you decide is what we'll go with. So.
Well, it's certainly nice to have somebody who knows what they're doing and not, I don't have to think it's.
When you do it long enough.
My marriage anniversary is tomorrow too, so I'll never forget that now. Will not let me forget it.
How many years?
26.
26.
Thank you.
A little bit behind us.
Thank you.
Thank y'all
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
See y'all. Thank you.
Moving on, need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we do so.
Second.
Motion, second. Anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, look at that. How many we got right now? Wednesday?
7, I think. No, 8, Mr. Brady King.
No citizen comment.
We're gonna skip right over citizen comments. There's not a citizen in the back of it. All right, moving on to minutes, consider approval of the September 24th, 2024 regular scheduled meeting minutes and executive session meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve unless someone has a change or addition.
I got a motion, do I have a
Second.
second? Second. All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous. Item 2, consider acceptance of the October 9th, 2024 Joint Planning and Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, move we accept.
I got a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Second, 2 seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, unanimous. Oh, moving fast enough to write. Special, I got a special note here. I think I Charlie's hand out. Special committee report, I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Nick Morrow.
Mr. Chairman, we had a very interesting combined meeting, and we had a nice discussion with Raftellus about the rate study, and they asked a number of questions of things we were looking for, and I feel very confident that when they're done, we're gonna have an intelligent system to set a water rate for maybe the first time ever. I mean, there are different reasons over the years to do different things, but I feel confident that we'll have a reason for our capital improvement costs, our operating costs, and will be fair to the big users and the small users at some level. So I look forward to their final report.
I agree, I think it's long overdue.
Yeah, and also then we discussed the progressive design build moving forward, which is, to me, has been very well done up to this point, and that's a new business. We'll discuss it then.
Any comments? Questions? Concerns? Don't need to accept that. Moving on to general manager's report. Consider acceptance of the general manager's report as presented by General Manager Johnson.
So fiscal year to date, we have billed roughly $3.2 million worth of water sales.
Question, year-to-date, are we operating under the June, July, or?
Sorry, I
November,
meant
December?
fiscal year to date. Sorry.
Sorry.
Fiscal year to date,
Fiscal
July
year,
1. Yep,
Not calendar year.
that's
Okay,
correct.
That's all I want to know.
We've added 112 customers since the start of FY '25. Looking at the water sales, we're 114% of our budgeted volume. So everything is tracking well. The meter sales summary. So this report, Cal, is calendar. So this is actually, no, sorry. Everything is fiscal year.
I was going to say, it says
Yep.
this.
Thank you. You see that we're running 26 meters behind. We're kind of hovering around this 26 meter, 20 to 30 meters behind schedule. What I will tell you is our meter fees collected year to date are way higher than we have typically done in the past because we're actually capturing our true cost now. So we have our eye on the meter deficit number just to see if things are kind of slowing down or not. But we'll keep an eye on it. Non-revenue water, the reason why September was missing, it was because we didn't get our report from the city prior to us posting this. I've updated this report, and there's really nothing out of the norm for September. And then the meter, or the fire hydrant maintenance summary, as you see, this is just a repeat. We have completed all that. The only additions that will come now to this report is if we have to physically go out and do something on something that we see as a problem or we're notified by the fire department. All right, the project updates. So the website, we're continuing to work with Hammond Marketing. We should have something to go live with relatively soon. The major update is the lead and copper rule compliance. We have submitted our initial inventory. We have worked with the city of Griffin on getting a QR code where we can send out a communication campaign that they have the template now in their file. We have to notify all our customers by November 16th. But the cool thing about this is the QR code, with the help of our GIS department and the cities, customers that get this letter can actually scan the QR code and help us validate their side. So we're fingers crossed that we get people to help validate their side of the system. But if we use historical tracking from other utilities, I don't anticipate getting a big influx. It's usually 1% to 3% of the customers actually respond. And it may be just because they don't understand. We've tried to be as concise and comprehensive, but how detailed can you get in a one-page document? So we've given them a lot of links to other websites, but you and I both know we have a hard time understanding this law and this rule. We're professionals. Will a common citizen and ratepayer understand it? I have no idea. So going forward, every year, if they're still on unknown status, they have to be communicated with starting July 1 of every year. So
How do you have to communicate with them?
via letter.
That's it? Just
That's
a
it.
letter?
That's it. So the state would just require saying, hey, did you notify your customers? We will say, yes, we did. We sent out this letter to these locations. And then they'll say, well, how did you determine those locations? So what our goal is over the next 12 months, we're going to actively whittle these unknowns down internally. I think our team has a really good process. I anticipate we may only have to do one more communication and then we'll be done. So I don't believe we have any lead in our system. If you talk to Danny Pryor or anybody with the city of Griffin, they've worked on our system for 35 years. They've never come across lead. If you look back at as-built that we have dating back to the 60s, we never allowed lead. It was copper surface line. So I think now that we have our team in place, we'll be able to really identify these and get them from unknown to known. So we're anticipating a lot of calls from customers. When you get a letter saying, hey, we don't know your service line material, because we don't know it, you could have some health concerns that you have to worry about. We're anticipating a lot of calls.
Who will field those calls?
Also, one thing that any cyber savvy consumer is going to be concerned about is scanning a QR code, because that is one of the new emerging cybersecurity threats. So basically, if you get a QR code, you need to independently verify it. That's one of my public service announcements to y'all. But you might want to add some sort of cybersecurity warning into that letter, just because this is one of the new, it's an emerging threat that's pretty big, and you should get calls about that as well before people scan a QR code.
So going forward, the state and the law requires any system that serves more than a population of more than 50,000 people. We don't serve a population larger than 50,000. You have to have a forward-facing website where people can go put in their address and see if they're known, unknown. We're going to work for having a forward-looking database. I mean, it's nothing that is confidential. Everything's open records. It's not like you're going to be able to see who owns the house. You're going to say, type in an address, and it's going to say known, unknown, or not. So we're working on that to have a forward-facing where the next communication is just going to say, hey, if you want to check your status, go to our website.
I suppose we can't just do a blanket letter in the bill once a year to everybody, can we?
So the city of Griffin, we thought about doing that, but here's where we think it could get confusing. Because we use the city of Griffin for billing, the bill's going to have their logo. The city really doesn't want to have a communication with our logo in their bill insert. So we decided, they're going to send a letter out. We're going to send a letter out, not including or not in addition to the bill. So it'll be a separate campaign. That's something we could look at, but
Well, what's the risk you run? They taking all the calls?
Who's gonna
Well,
who's
just
gonna
saying.
field our calls, Joseph?
Do what?
You expecting a lot of calls, who's gonna field them?
Our team,
A single person or?
Charlie.
everybody?
it'll be Charlie, myself, Parker,
Whoever's available.
that's right.
I think
And you'll all be speaking, you'll all be speaking the same language.
We've got our logo in the
Yes.
last bill on the consumer confidence report. It's on there. It's both the city's logo and the water authority's logo.
That's right.
So what's the difference?
It's a possibility. I think Brandon is he's more open to the idea. I know Brant was really, he was really against it. The reason why we chose to do a separate billing this month or this year is because due to the timing of bills, how they go out, we couldn't guarantee that everybody would be notified by the November 16th deadline. The only way we're verifying that is we're sending out a letter that's not dependent on the billing cycle, so they're just gonna go out as a mass influx. So next year, we could do that.
Okay.
But
I don't-
here's the
I don't see
thing.
where there's an issue with that part.
And the only thing that I was kind of leery of is if you get a letter that says, hey, the city of Griffin and the Spalding County Water Authority are doing this lead service line inventory, it can be really confusing where you may not understand, well, why are you doing this together? We were limited to the number of characters we could have on a page, and we just took the state's EPD template where they're gonna say, well, how did you communicate? We used your template, so we don't have to validate anything.
All right, let me make sure in my mind I understand this. So we can verify there is no lead up to the meter. So when you send this letter to people, that when you say service line, you mean their personal service line?
Correct,
From the meter to
the
them.
home, yes.
To that.
Well, see, to me, that makes a big difference if people understand that our system is lead-free, but their own personal one might not be.
Well, here's the thing, so we can't 100% definitively say that because we haven't created a model that would predict where lead is or isn't. The state hasn't approved our methodology yet, so what's gonna happen now that we've done the initial lead service line inventory, now we're building our procedures of how we're going to quantify and take people from unknown to known. Then we're gonna get it in front of the state, get their approval on that methodology, where we're not gonna sit in this situation in 5 years from now saying, well, hold on a second, we didn't agree to this. We're gonna make you go start digging up service lines.
Well, I understand that, but I guess my thing is, people somehow need to understand that this is a double process.
The
Our
letter-
stuff we're working on.
Yes.
This is your stuff.
Yes, but the law requires if for some reason we find that you may have lead on your side, it doesn't say the authority or the jurisdiction has to pay for it, but we do have to provide a mechanism for you to allow this work to happen, meaning are we gonna generate a fund where we're the loan, we provide the loan to them and then they pay us back over time. That is all still, it has to be flushed out.
Well,
But-
this sounds to me like a 500-pound snafu.
Oh, yes, it is. It is if you talk to any consultant, a lot of the consultants really don't like it because it's so vague. And
I stand corrected, it's an 800-pound snafu, not a
It-
500-pound.
it's a mess. It's a mess.
There are gonna be a lot of homes pre-50s, 60s that have lead service pipes. Maybe not from our side, but into the house and in the house.
The only thing, I've never come across any home that I've seen that has lead pipes. Not to say they're not out there. I would think the city of Griffin is probably more susceptible than we are.
Yeah.
Older homes, sure.
Mhm.
That was the standard
Mhm.
years ago.
So,
Well, I built a house in the county when I moved here in 74, and it was all copper. I'll tell you, there was no lead in it in 1974, the house I built.
Now, I'm thinking about primarily pre-World War II houses.
And 74 is about the year that lead became such an issue, because that's when the lead-based paint disclosures start.
so This is an evolving process, but we have satisfied the state's requirement of updating the inventory. We will notify the customers, and then our team will be actively working to quantify everyone's service line. So that's the next step.
So
Well,
you
you're
believe that
satisfied.
we'll be required to have funding available through us for remediation for anybody that finds lead?
We're going to have to talk about that, yes.
As long as we've satisfied the state and Charlie's gonna talk to all the people upset, we got it covered, right?
That's correct.
Move on, then. We're not fixing this problem today.
Joseph,
The,
I just got to ask the question.
absolutely.
If we're worried about the city having lead and we get our water from the city, why shouldn't we all be worried?
So when we say lead, let's quantify this. The pipes, the distribution pipes are not lead. So we're talking service lines
To the homes.
to the home. So on the distribution side, we are 100% non-lead. It's
Doesn't come
from
back
the
into the
main
system.
to the meter where we have to verify, and based on all our as-built and all our documentation, we have never allowed anything but PVC, polyethylene, or copper. So we're gonna work to identify all our side. It's basically from the meter to the home where we have to work with and it's gonna be an education process.
We're gonna start talking about PFAS and PVC pipe.
That well, that's a story for another day.
Joseph, do you know if we have any of that gray PVC pipe that failed so much? Do you know if
Oh,
we have
you're
any of
talking
that?
about that, that,
Yeah,
the only development I think that may have it is the Cabin Creek Trail subdivision. So we've come across documents where that development is actually served by PRVs, so it's a pressure reducing valve. So it actually reduces the pressure in that area. The report that we have on file, it was a private system that was then turned over to the Water Authority back years and years ago. And we don't think that they made the steps necessary in order to make their system more resilient before we took it. So we still have a bunch of services that if we go take those PRVs out and actually have system pressure, we're gonna have a lot of geysers.
Chlorine was the issue with polybutylene.
I had a failure at my house. It was
Yes.
run from the meter to my house, and I had to replace the whole line.
But that's one of the reasons why the city made the point back in the early 2000s to go away from PVC to copper. We've always been copper or PVC. But that butylene pipe was I think it was like that Orangeburg. There was some Orangeburg pipe too. But yeah, that technology's come a long way.
Yeah, now it's called PEX, and they still sell it to you.
Yeah, PEX I've seen lots of PEX.
Yep. The water model is progressing very nicely, and the water rate study, after the original meeting for workshop number 1, they are actively in the data request digestion mode. So more to come on that. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
I move we accept the report.
I got a motion, I got a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Unanimous. Next item, new business. Consider approval of the fiscal year 25 Community Development Block Grant Target Area as recommended by Alan Smith Consulting. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Everybody jump right up and never come down, huh? Well, in my cost-effectiveness brain, that was what I did as an engineer.
Don't we have to get
It's the
one before
most
we talk?
service for the, per dollar.
I think
It
you-
sounds like
you're discussing generally.
East Griffin is the
not-
cost-effective way to go, but I just can't jump on that ship without some number. So I'm wondering if Paragon, in their past studies, for instance, if we got a number of the Pine Tree cost to get it to sewer or something.
I thought we did.
I think we've done it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been on the board a while, and I agree. We've been kicking Pine Tree down the road for years. I know, Joseph, there's a study out there, you probably did it when you were there, doing a package plant for Pine Tree.
So my question is.
And at one time, we were told that the grant money could not be used to connect the houses to the service line.
I think I think where the grant money couldn't be used is the capacity cost recovery fee.
That's right.
So the city of Griffin, I see this going two different roads. If Pine Tree is the area that is selected, we're gonna have a fork in the road where the city of Griffin, are we gonna give them the service area? Or are we not gonna give them the service area? If we don't, they're gonna require the capacity cost recovery fee to be paid. Grant money can't be used for that, so that's gonna be a cost that we have to build into the project. But maybe Pine Tree Hill is the area, in the sewer feasibility study, we talked about a low-pressure sewer system. The engineer report that was done prior did not include looking at a low-pressure sewer. A low-pressure sewer may be a cheaper alternative to running gravity sewers everywhere and getting it to the plant. That's just an option. Maybe I think there's additional lenses we can look at this in order to get a project.
Perhaps we should table this and run it through the committees and.
Well, I think so, because if you can serve 100 houses per X dollars one place and 100 houses for a lot more dollars another place, they're saying that East Griffin is a much better project to get through DCA, but I don't want to I don't want to exclude. So we need some numbers, I think, that, so we don't just jump on something. Can
In
we?
any of these three scenarios, $1 million is not gonna go a long way. I mean, $1
It's
million
just gonna get
is
us
a drop in the
started.
bucket, so we've gotta decide if we're gonna put in the money to finish it or to do it. And that's gonna be a whole lot more than $1 million.
I agree, that's the word. Whereas in East Griffin, if there's a manhole there, which there is a couple of them, you start putting pipes over into the manhole and you don't have any pump stations or things.
But I bet you it's gonna cost $1 million to bore under the railroad tracks.
Well, if you go to Cabin Creek, you don't do that.
That's what I mean, if you go to Potato Creek. If you go to Cabin Creek, you may not have to, but
That's what, yeah,
will the,
so I
will
mean,
the city accept an additional, say, 50 houses of sewer in Cabin Creek?
Well, the good thing
That's another thing that's gotta be worked out before we go anywhere.
Well, the good thing about it is, we don't have to use theoretical numbers. We can actually take water bills for that area in Pine Tree and actually show the city, hey, this is the demand that you could see. I think there's an opportunity here where we can look at, maybe not the traditional sewer route, we can look at an alternative, and I think low-pressure sewer may be an opportunity here where we basically retrofit the septic system tank. We put the grinder pump, the low-pressure pump in there. We're kind of, you keep it outside the home. You can baffle off. I think there's an opportunity here.
Is that gonna add to the cost to the homeowner, having that system versus a gravity flow? Because we've got 13% in here that say they don't want it.
So-
that's another block with getting the grant money.
Yep.
Is that number of people. We also have to remember, she told us that we've got 30 days to get them something. So we
And-
don't have a whole lot of time to kick this down the road anymore.
And here's the thing, so if you go with the low-pressure sewer, the pumps are gonna be privately owned. Do we require them to have a maintenance agreement? These pump companies, they do offer that agreement. So
how
there's a
quick
lot
can
of,
can we put together an intelligent comparison?
Low pressure, this package is about $7,000, but then you're gonna have a cost of electrical work, because there's gonna be electrical power that you're gonna have to get from the home to the package and pump. You can drop it in the septic tank, but then you gotta get the line out, it's a shallow line, so you're not paying a lot of diesel, opening up ditches and stuff, but you can get it out to the road. Then you still gotta get it to a collection point.
What's the cost of individual hookup to the sewer?
I wanna say, and don't quote me on this, it's probably the capacity cost recovery fee that the city would levy is around $3,500 per home,
At least.
at least.
But how much?
$3,500.
So that's So somebody, and what Deborah said earlier was that's where CBD likes to see their money used. Or DCA, she said that they like to see it used for hookup, home hookup.
Well, last time the capacitor recovery fee was a big hang-up because so many of the folks
Yeah,
there
didn't wanna
said,
pay it.
I'm not paying $3,500 to do
Exactly.
this.
And are they gonna wanna pay $7,500 on the equipment side, or is
Well,
that
no,
something we're
I
gonna pay
think
for?
that can be built into the project, because
Okay.
that would essentially be the way that we're sewering this, that's right.
And then the pipe after that point's cheap.
And then you've got the treatment of it, they're gonna get that bill regardless of which system it is. They're gonna have a monthly
Correct.
bill.
Correct.
For the sewage treatment.
Correct.
Low pressure would go into the sewer system.
Yes, it would, and
It'd go into Cabin
Just-
Creek.
just how it
that's
gets
right,
there.
yep. So the low-pressure option, the reason why it's so attractive is you can reduce the pipe sizes because you technically have zero water other than sewage that you're pumping, right? So you take an 8-inch collector line and you shrink it down to, say, a 1.5 or 2-inch line that you can just take a trencher and trench along the road, connect all these lines to it, and then get it to Cabin Creek.
So we're talking roughly $10,000 per household for the pump in the septic tank, plus the recovery fee, without running any pipe.
That's right.
And that doesn't get over the hill and down to the plant.
Correct.
You still gotta do, there's gonna be electrical, cause you're gonna have to get power out of each
Well,
house.
I just took, you know, the $5,000 plus added some in the $3,000, $2,000, roughly $10,000.
Probably looking, probably another 2,000 per house in electrical. I
Yeah,
think it runs on a 30-amp circuit.
not a 220 line.
Well, 30-amp 220 is what it would be.
Yeah, so you have to rewire a lot of houses.
Yeah,
for
I believe
220.
that's what it was. wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's gonna be a 220.
I
So you got to
believe some
rewire-
of those
like a- it's like a
properties
well
are still
pump.
owned by the Land Bank Authority as well, and they certainly don't have funds to cover anything like that.
How quick can we put together some sort of a,
So I would have to get with Paragon and basically tell them we need to look at a low-pressure option for Pine Tree and then a sewer option for East Griffin. In order, that's a pretty large lift in 30 days.
Not in 30 days.
I don't think you can do it. Well, we can get the data and everything's been engineered so far, make a better educated decision, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, the data that's been done so far is you have, I think there's 3 different options that Paragon did back in the mid-2015, 2011 time era. They would, if we want to just take that, knock the dust off, update the numbers to get an order of magnitude, that's the traditional sewer route. That's not going to be the most cost-effective way to do Pine Tree Hill.
We can call a couple of the companies who sell the grinder pumps, and I bet you they could swag us pipe sizes, push that cost off on them. I think we could put together, I know I could put together, we can put together a pretty good swag on low pressure pretty quick.
Who's we? You and me?
Yeah, buddy. The royal we.
Discussion like that, it goes into that.
Is that the route you guys want to go?
That's up to the board, what's the board want to do?
well,
You wanna
unless
table this?
unless the board wants to vote today, I'm
Well, I'm a cost guy. I need.
Yeah,
to know.
I need numbers.
that's the way I feel too. And I don't want to just exclude Pine Hill because this other's a better project theoretically, but
So the cool thing about this is the surveys are good for 2 years. So we've set the deadline for FY '25 of April. These surveys are good until the end of 2026.
So if we don't do anything this go around.
That's right.
can
We could,
next year.
that's right, that's right.
well, she said 30 days. That takes us to our next meeting.
Mhm.
By our next meeting, can we have some sort of an intelligent,
I think we could have more information for sure.
for sure?
I think
So
it's
I'll
important.
I'll get Paragon to
I know this
assess
has
East
been looked
Griffin.
at. I know Brian's presented, so they gotta have the data somewhere.
I just don't think they have low-pressure sewer. I don't think low-pressure was ever.
Mr. Chairman,
We could get to
I
that.
move we table item number 1, new business, till our next scheduled meeting.
Got a motion? I got multiple seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ms. Fanning has an appointment she needs to attend to. Next item, consider approval of the Phase 2A Progressive Design Build Contract to obligate the remaining plus or minus $2 million in ARPA funds as recommended by the Finance and Planning Committees.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this contract.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This completes all the design, and if we find the financing, it can be started. If not, it sits on the shelf until the financing available. And so we're ready to go. Oh, I see, and it commits the remainder of the ARPA funds, so we haven't lost any money,
Well,
so.
it also, it includes us, part of this includes us purchasing some
Pipe, too.
And generators.
I was gonna ask, are we gonna go ahead and purchase those generators?
So,
The generators have the longest lead time,
So we're gonna go ahead, they're gonna go ahead and place orders for those generators.
and ATS is the transfer switches too.
And those, I mean, everything on the list, they're gonna go ahead and procure.
That's right.
12,800 feet of 16-inch pipe, 620 duct line, 530.
What are we gonna do with it if this project doesn't go?
so the cool thing about the pipe selection that we did is
Pipe, I understand.
we can use this pipe in our water system. If the generators, if this project doesn't go, we can either find another, we could possibly send them back, pay a restocking fee, or find another utility that would need them.
Or resell them.
That's right, that's right.
One of them we could probably install at Heron Bay with all the pumps and everything we got out there. The generators have a long, that's like 8 to 12 months. That's like the longest lead time piece of equipment for the project.
And they don't get any cheaper, so if we keep them a couple of years, I'm sure we'll get our money back.
What's the cost portion of the generators? Do you have a number on that?
I can get the breakdown,
Can you
but it
give
was
me an estimate of what you think it is?
probably $250,000.
I was gonna say, I'm 250 to 500.
Because you're looking at, it's the generator for the plant, the generator for the lift station. You have 125 and 300 kW.
We're not specifying whose brand we buy.
I think they're Caterpillar.
Be nice if they could come from here.
Yeah, I would think so.
Probably 300.
But this project will, like Mr. Morrow said, we're gonna have a full set of construction documents. We'll have all the permits, so if this project does not go, the only thing we will have to do is keep up this MPDS permit every 5 years. So we'll make sure that internally, we submit all the paperwork to keep it active, so we always have an active MPDS permit at that facility, or proposed facility at the property.
Where are these items gonna be stored, Justin?
That's a great question. We're currently looking to see if we have enough room on our laydown yard now, back behind our shop, for roughly about 20,000 feet of pipe. If not, we will go clear out,
We do own some land.
we'll go clear
Yeah,
a piece
We
of.
bought some, didn't we?
The only thing I would say is, if this project does not go, you're probably gonna see me budget for a pole barn, because we need to keep the pipe out of the elements.
Correct.
Because sun will
Yep.
destroy PVC.
And the generators.
That's correct.
And the generators need to be run once in a while.
That's right. If the project doesn't go, it's gonna be my recommendation, we either find somebody to offload them to, or send them back. Because that, it's just that's,
Put one of them.
Heron Bay water, the tank?
Yeah, we got the chlorine injection system, you got the pumps there. I mean, yeah, if you got it, why
Yeah,
not?
yeah,
I know it'd
It's
be
a big
oversized-
generator.
it'd be oversized, but why not? If you got
That's
it,
correct.
Instead of losing money on
That's
one,
correct.
at least put it to use.
so we believe that this path forward provides multiple avenues in the event that this sewer project doesn't ever come to fruition. We can redeploy this pipe anywhere in our water distribution system.
Call the question.
Yes.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Unanimous? Moving on, other business. The next regular scheduled meeting will be held on November 20th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. in the courthouse annex meeting room. I believe that's where we're at, correct? Secretary Treasurer comments.
None.
General Manager comments.
I do have a comment. So, as you see, we have a new face in the crowd. So, we now are in possession of Mr. Matthew Gilchrist. He is our GIS analyst. He is working with Chris, and I believe our GIS department we are on our way to being really, really top-notch. So, we welcome Mr. Gilchrist to the team. He started on Monday.
Welcome.
That's him.
Welcome. Well,
Keep coming back.
yes.
So are we doing anything with anyone else with respect to GIS services with the county, or where are we with that?
So, Mr. Reagan does keep a log of time and projects that he does for other departments. I can tell you, we're not actively pursuing projects for any other department. If they request services, we do provide them, but our focus is on Water Authority projects. I'm not going around to other departments saying, hey, how can we support you?
I know we've discussed that, supporting
right.
some of them.
Well,
But at the end of the year, when we
the county
redo our-
wanted us to support them.
Well, yeah. that-
At the end of the year, when we do our annual rental agreement stuff, you've got the numbers to,
Correct. Correct. We do keep a log of the time and the load that they take from us on our services, but right now, it's maybe a couple handful of projects, and they haven't been, it's mainly with EMA right now, and a couple jobs with Public Works.
So the county, are they still wanting to team up with us on that, do you know?
Anything else?
That's it.
Moving on to authority member comments.
Just a question, do I assume we'll have a joint planning finance committee meeting on the 13th prior to the 20th meeting?
or we're gonna have both of them.
That's between you two. Y'all, whatever y'all wanna do.
As far as I know, we'll have both,
Just let
but we
Charlie
might
know.
combine them.
Well, it should be combined if we're gonna discuss what.
I'm thinking combined probably is best. It'll give us a little more time to, I say we put it on the finance date.
For the decision of which project.
Yeah, to have some cost.
Sounds good to me.
Is that on the 6th?
No, it'd be the-
13th. I
the
think.
13th.
Water Authority is the 20th,
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
but that would potentially be the 13th.
Okay.
yeah, that was the plan.
So y'all gonna plan on a joint committee meeting?
I
Yes,
think so, yes.
yes,
Makes sense.
yes.
That's the only comment I have.
Mr. Davis,
Negative?
Ms. Howard?
Yeah.
Right guy?
No comments.
None.
I have one. I am extremely pleased that we are now moving for a complete sewer design and preparation. I think it's incredible. It disturbs me that there's not a complete general agreement from the commissioners and others that this sewer project needs funded and needs to go forward, because if Spalding County continues to run on a septic tank economy, it's a financial disaster waiting to happen. Septic tank economies never adequately fund services, so I hope people understand that.
Anything else, Dick?
Oh, that's my vent.
I have one comment. We have one office left in our new facilities down the hall here. And a whole lot of pipe coming. I would ask that the Planning and Finance Committee take up the issue of us finding some land or maybe some new office space or building something in the future. I know dirt is disappearing at a fast pace around here and the cost is going up. I'm not saying we need to do something next week, but it's something we need to put on our radar for the future. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor? All opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Ugh.